In the year 2006, Apple launched the first of three new television advertisements for Mac laptops. A young man dressed in casual clothes introduced himself as Mac laptop. And at the same time, an older, more conservative looking man enters in the scene, introducing himself as PC. The two clearly different personalities in which the capabilities and the attributes of Mac and PC are compared. The PC is represented as the formal and stuffy person, overly concerned with the work, often being frustrated by the superior ability of the more laid-back Mac. The two of the casual Mac and the more uptight PC discuss some of the everyday difficulties of the PC and how the Mac doesn't have these problems. The Mac personality versus the PC personality is an example of a brand that takes the theoretical possibilities of the personality approach using a brand personality to position and differentiate the brand against the brand in the same product category. Consumers automatically ascribe personality to brands. This process is central aspect of consumer symbolic consumption and construction of self. The personality approach in brand management hence focused on how and why people choose brands with certain personalities and how brands with personality can be a powerful tool to create and enhance the brand equity. The assumptions, theories, and methods of the personality approach borrow from the academic field of human psychology, personality research, and consumer behavior. Understanding consumers' attraction to brand personality has been an area of interest in consumer behavior research, where the research has focused on how brand personality enables consumers to express self through the symbolic use of brand personality. In the brand management context, practitioners have viewed brand personality particularly as a way to differentiate the brand from other brands. In the same product category, at the same time, it is a driver of consumer preference and as a common denominator that can be used across different national cultures. Several interesting and groundbreaking research articles have been published, but one article in particular set the new agendas, and the article is known as the Dimensions of Brand Personality. This article presented a whole new theoretical framework and methods for working with brand personality, and that has since been validated and expanded by several studies. The concept of personality has its origin in the field of human psychology. The personality is one of the most significant manifestations of a human being's self-concept and has been the area of research in human psychology. The personality construct in human psychology focuses on the development of frameworks for the categorization of human beings according to their personality. These frameworks define people according to different personality types defined by certain personality traits, and hence assumes that personality traits describe internal characteristics of human beings from which their behavior in different situations can be predicted and explained. Personality traits can be described with adjectives like talkative, organized, imaginative, or responsible. These are several theoretical frameworks used in the field of psychology for the categorization of personality. But one of the more common is that the framework of the Big Five. This framework reduces the number of adjectives describing the human personalities to 5 dimensions, representing the five overriding personality according to which human beings can be categorized. These five personalities are extroversion, agreeable, consciousness, emotional and stability, openness, and cultured. The Big Five framework hence provides a framework for classifying and categorizing human beings according to the descriptors of human personality. The personality of human beings not only determines how they will react to different situations or behave in general, it also influences how humans are able to connect with other human beings and the role that people with the different personalities play in the relationship between two or more people. Human beings attach meaning to possessions because we regard possessions as part of ourselves. The meaning consumers attach to possessions is key in the understanding of consumption pattern and the drivers that motivate consumers' symbolic consumption of brands. Consumer research and psychology have for long acknowledged the brands contribute significantly to consumers' sense of who they are and in other words, the sense of self. Brands are considered important for consumers' construction and expression of self. According to the modern conceptions of self, material possessions are thought to be an extension of our identity and are defined as an important part of so-called extended self. The extended self is hence the extension of self that humans produce through the relation with other people, our family, our achievements, and last, but in this context of brand management, not the least, our possessions. The nature and the importance of different possessions as contributors to the extended self fluctuate over time. Consumers hence neglect old possessions and seek new ones when the possessions no longer fit to the consumer's actual or ideal self images. Even though consumers' need for material decreases with age, the need to define and express ourselves through possessions remain high throughout the life. Personality approach, it is assumed that consumers' need for identity and expression of self is a key driver of the consumption of a brand. This is why consumers, apart from the physical and functional characteristics of a brand, also consume brands due to the symbolic benefits they can provide. Furthermore, it is assumed that if these symbolic benefits are expressed by the brand with a human-like character, then the brand will be strengthened significantly. And if well executed, a strong and attractive brand personality can serve as an important source of differentiation and brand power. Brand personality is an efficient driver of emotional bonding between the brand and the consumer. Because consumers bond with and act on brands with a brand personality to a greater extent than they do with brands that do not have a personality. The basic assumption is brands are provided with human-like personalities which are activated in a continuous reciprocal dialogue-based exchange between brand and consumers. In the personality approach, the emotional bond between the brand and the consumer is hence strengthened significantly if the brand has an attractive and relevant brand personality. For consumers, brands with a brand personality are hence appealing because they serve as a mean of construction of an expression of self. For companies, brand personality can serve as an important source of differentiation, positioning, and a tool to build emotional bonds with consumers. Consumers see themselves in the personality of the brand and hence use the brand in their construction of identity and self. The more consumers perceive the brand personality as a reflection of own personality, the stronger the brand personality and the brand is. The function of a brand personality is, however, not limited to consumers' personal inward use as a source of construction of self. Brands with an attractive brand personality are also chosen and consumed due to their outward symbolic signaling value. The use of brand personality as a symbolic signal or a source for self-construction can be based on the brand personality itself or the personality of the ideal or actual user of the brand. The personality approach hence places the personality of the brand and the personality of its stereotypical or ideal user at the heart of the brand management. Apart from using possessions to enhance a sense of self, consumers also use possessions to express self to others. Consumers use brands to define themselves to others, demonstrate group affiliation, or to tell a story of who they are and what they stand for. Consumers' self is structured in terms of two dimensions. Consumers use brands to play out their personal stories about their lives and identities, positioning themselves in relation to culture, society, and other people. Objects or brands that people love are particularly important for the creation, maintenance, and expression of self. Brand personality refers to both the personality given to the brand by the company and the brand personality perceived by the consumers. One aspect of brand personality is hence what the company want the consumers to think and feel about the brand, and the other is what consumers perceive, and the two are not necessarily the same. The personality statement must be reflected in the brand personality and serve as a guiding platform for the creation and enhancement of the brand in the long run. The personality statement delivers important input to the creative strategy. The other side of the brand personality construct is what consumers actually feel about the brand. How much does the brand personality appeals to the consumer self and motivate consumers to choose this specific brand because of the symbolic benefits that can derive from the brand personality? The creation of a brand personality is a dynamic cyclic process that sets off from the company and then in an interactive process between consumer and brand creates and enhances a certain brand personality. Consumers evaluate a brand personality based on their observations of the different brand behavior over time. These evaluations add up to a general assessment of the brand and its role as a relationship partner. The logic is hence the greater congruence there is between the human personality characteristics and consumer's actual or ideal self, the greater will be the consumer's preference for the brand. The personality of the brand generates attention and interest from consumers who feel that they can use the symbolic benefits of the brand in their construction and expression of self. In reverse, the stereotypical consumer of a personality-based brand also affect the evolution of the personality of the brand. The personality approach introduces a strong emotional bond between the brand and the consumer, based on consumers' use of the brand personality for the inward construction and outward expression of self. The nature of the brand-consumer exchange in the personality approach is interactive, dyadic, and revolves around the exchange of symbolic benefits. These symbolic benefits are evaluated by consumers based on the extent to which they contribute to their construction and expression of self. The brand consumer exchange in the personality approach is perceived to take place between one brand and one consumer. The focus is hence individual and the nature of relation is dyadic. It is the symbolically charged interaction between the brand and the consumer that motivates consumers to choose one brand over others. Because a brand personality sets off a process of social identification between the brand and the self of the consumer, it is assumed in the personality approach that the fulfillment and expression of self is one of the strongest basic driving force that predispose consumers to act and consume brands. The consumer self construct is rather complex because the self refers to self on different levels. Objects can contribute to the construction of self on two different levels, at the individual level and at the social level. At the individual level, objects are consumed because they carry a symbolic significance for the consumers in relation to the creation and maintenance of self. The other consumption objects contribute to the social level of self, that the expression of self to the others. Hence, the consumption of objects as a source of self can stem from consumers' need to create and maintain self at an individual level. The symbolic consumption of objects can also serve to express self to the others at a more social group level. In the research literature, these levels are often referred as an independent self and interdependent self. The independent self consists of two categories, the actual and the desired self. The actual self is the objective representation of self, the way the self actually is. And the desired self is a representation of something that the consumer would like to become. And finally, the ideal self represents the consumer's perception of their own ideal self. When consuming a brand with a brand personality, consumers engage in a matching process to identify brands that are congruent with their own self-images. This process is here referred to as brand self-congruence. The brand self-congruence construct has its origin in the concept of social identification from the field of psychology. This construct proposes that consumer behavior is determined by the consumer's comparison of their own perception of self and the personality of the brand. Self doesn't necessarily refer to the actual self. The brand personality can also be congruent with the ideal or desired self of the consumer, depending on the function of the brand for either construction or expression of self. Consumers use brand personalities in relation to self in two ways. On the individual level, they either try to preserve their own self-concept by consuming brands with a personality matching their actual self, or they use the symbolic consumption of the brand with a certain personality to enhance their self-concept by consuming brands with a personality that is congruent with their ideal or desired self. Consumers can, however, also use brands as an expression of social self, where the brand is used to position the consumer according to the social or cultural reference groups in society. Using brand personality to enhance the ideal or desired self is an expression of the aspiration and dreams of the consumers that the brand can help them fulfill. The development of self-congruence using brand personality is a dynamic two-way process Consumers who prefer a particular brand because of its personality and influence the brand personality with their own self and symbolic signaling is strengthening or weakening the brand personality. To ensure that this process will strengthen and not weaken the brand personality, it is essential for the brand manager to ensure that the brand personality appeals to the right consumers and that their consumption of the brand underpins the existing personality of the brand. Getting this process right will consolidate and enhance the brand personality in the long run. Selecting and appealing to the right group of consumers can hence strengthen the brand, whereas attracting the wrong group of consumers can devaluate the brand personality and undermine the credibility of the brand. The interaction between the brand and consumer can hence be described as a cyclic process, either strengthening or weakening the brand. Congruence between the self and the brand personality positively affects the brand loyalty directly and indirectly through functional congruence, product involvement, and product relationship quality. This underpins the paramount importance of self-brand congruence, not only in the battle to attract and appeal to certain group of consumers, but also for the long-term nurturing of brand-consumer relationship, consumer brand loyalty, and in the efforts to create right brand personality. The basis of a strong brand personality is insight into how the symbolic benefits of the brand personality contribute to consumers' construction and expression of self. The focus is hence on individual consumers and the psychological processes that lay the grounds for consumers' inward individuals and outward social use of brands. The human self is a complex concept and must be researched properly using the right methods. To uncover how consumers use the symbolic benefits of the brand before the brand personality can be constructed to match these symbolic consumption demands. Effective use of brand personality depends on the brand's ability to enhance consumer self-expression. Before that can be achieved, research must uncover what parts of the self-construct are in play in this specific brand. Does the bonding between the consumer and brand personality happens because the brand appeals to the individual self and is used mainly for the inward construction of identity, or is the primary task for the brand to contribute the expression of the consumer's social self, where it is outward signal of the values of the brand that are in play? These are important steps in understanding how the brand relates to the consumer self that the brand managers must uncover. These steps relate to the consumer self construct. Exact knowledge about the mechanisms and focus of self for the particular brand in question is a prerequisite for the ability and develop brand personality that is relevant and attractive to consumers. After having uncovered at what level the brand personality relates to the consumer by contributing to consumer self-construct, the brand personality can be developed. Once the consumer self has been uncovered, steps must be undertaken to construct or maintain the brand personality. The brand personality dimensions are long-term and a strategic tool. The brand personality statement is more short-term and contains the more nuanced personality traits that can be altered over time and can serve as guide for how the brand should appear and behave more specifically. When developing a brand personality, brand managers have direct and indirect sources of brand personality at their disposal to create and shape the desired brand personality. The direct and indirect sources of brand personality shape in interplay the full picture of brand personality, and it is important that behavior, signal value, and symbolic clues expressed through both the direct and indirect sources of brand personality are coherent to ensure that the consumers experience, perceive, and evaluate the brand personality as authentic, as true as its own nature. Direct sources of brand personality are the set of human characteristics associated with the stereotypical brand user, company employees, the CEO, brand endorsers, and etc. These human characteristics can be of both a symbolic nature, like sophistication, or they can have a demographic nature, like age, social class, etc. The direct sources of a brand personality are always person based. The founder of Virgin, Richard Branson, advocates new thinking and doing things differently through all the products inherent in the Richard Branson, and very visible as CEO, and his personality helps promote a certain Virgin brand personality to consumers. Indirect sources of brand personality are all the decisions made about the physical, functional, and tangible aspect that can be experienced by consumer, like the price, shape, distribution, and promotion, are the indirect sources of brand personality. They contribute to the brand personality indirectly by giving the consumer clues about the brand personality. A company with a strong brand personality doesn't need to have very visible CEO advocating certain brand personality, as in the case of direct sources of brand personality. Brand personality can also be transferred indirectly from management to the brand. By choosing different vehicles of communication, this can be done. For example, MTV is expressing an exciting brand personality through its event, sponsorship, website, and advertising. The sources of brand personality are indirect since a vehicle of communication is used. Having uncovered the sources of brand personality and how these sources can be used actively to shape the brand personality of the brand, it is important to establish an efficient communication platform that can launch the brand personality as distinctive and attractive, but also underpins the personality traits of the brand. The communication platform should not consist only of traditional marketing tools like ad, website, and etc. A distinctive brand personality cannot be built through communication only. The behavior of the brand is also a necessary and important part of the brand personality. To create an authentic and believable brand personality, the brand manager must engage in a wide range of branding activities that expresses the personality and creates an emotional bond with the consumer. Activities like sponsorship events or ads on the consumer services matching the personality of the brand are essential to complete the picture. Too often, companies fail on this because they emphasize short term goals focused on reaching sales target or just thinking and looking into the competitive strategies. The goal of a brand personality is to describe a mix of perceptual reality from the consumer perception. They should reflect the way consumers feel about the brand rather than just expressing how the company would like the consumer to feel. The creation of a brand personality consists of following steps. The first step is identification. Identification of a personality is a very, very important step in this. Identify personality dimensions and personality traits to be communicated and built into the behavior of the brand. By narrowing down the relevant traits described in the methods and data of the personality approach, it is possible to finally end up with the brand personality profile describing the traits and facets characterizing the brand personality. The next step is appealing. Make sure it is appealing. Make sure that the personality appeals to the consumer by analyzing the consumer self-brand exchange. Adjustments should be made to brand personality based on the analysis of how consumers are to use the symbolic attributes of the brand. The third step is target group. Understand target group is very crucial in this section. Make sure that the right consumer groups are targeted and the right brand endorsers are chosen. The typical consumer of a brand can have an enormous impact on how the brand personality is perceived by the other future consumers. This is why getting the target group right from the beginning can be crucial for the success of the brand personality. Fourth is alignment. Align the personality of the brand and the consumer. Analyze the extent to which the brand is congruent with the consumer self and align the personality accordingly. And the last step is communication. Develop the communication platform having identified the personality dimensions that should characterize the brand. It is important to develop an efficient communication platform that underpins that personality. Early adopters of a brand are critical for having alignment of the brand personality because they are the group of consumers that other consumers will identify with and use a measure for the authenticity of the brand personality. This process takes place because consumer self-expression has not only an individual but also a social dimension. Whereas consumers seek inspiration from reference group for the brand consumption and use brand demonstrate belonging to certain reference group. The brand can hence be reinforced in a cyclic process if the right target group picks it up because it will serve as an inspiration for the other consumers who identify with or aspire to identify with the reference group that this target group represents. Early adopters can be used as a control group to make sure that the brand actually expresses desired personality traits. If early adopters display personality traits that are similar to or in line with the personality of the brand personality will be reinforced and strengthened. If the group of early adopters, on the other hand, do not share the personality characteristics with the brand personality communicated, then the brand personality will be weakened. The greater the brand congruence between the personality of the ideal target consumer and the personality of the brand, the stronger will be the brand personality. Early adopters are hence critical for aligning the brand personality and can be useful tool when measuring and aligning the brand self-congruence, and they can potentially reinforce the personality of the brand and can be used actively in the advertising campaign and management of the brand.